Welcome to G-Man Gaming and Reviews. As you can see, I'm offline. For those of you who were watching the previous stream, the reason that the stream ended was because my internet has slowed down dramatically. So we're experiencing internet issues. So I thought I might take this opportunity to record a video, a guide video that I've been meaning to do, which was a guide to the cards of Armello. There's a lot of cards, there's a lot of decks in this game, and I thought I would go through each of the cards and give you an idea of how they work. A lot of them are simple, a lot of them are not so simple, a lot of them have some interesting interactions. So we're going to go through them. I'm going to try to get through as many as I can, but we'll see how long it takes to do the regular item deck. If it takes a long while, I might transition, I might separate this into multiple videos. The first one is Shining Steel Sword, which is self-explanatory. I would equip this, but then again, I really wouldn't bother equipping it unless you've got nothing better to equip. In this game, the reason that defensive items are generally better than offensive items is because of the way that the dice roll works. So when you roll the dice in this game, three of the six outcomes that you would get, which would be rot, which would be wild, or rot if you're corrupted, attack, the sword symbol, and either the sun or moon, depending upon whether it's day or night, will result in attack. Whereas only one of the results in a defense. So when you're trying to decide which items you should equip, defensive items are always better. Even if you have high fight, because like I've seen people who have really high fight and roll a lot of attack and just not roll enough defense and get killed. So Shining Steel Sword is, I mean, it's okay, but like if we look here to the Trusty Shield, it's probably the start of some decent items. It's not bad, but I would definitely equip this over the Shining Steel Sword. The Adventures Kit is pretty cheap. Like I said, it's 1 gold. Normally I equip this when I've got nothing better to equip, but it does help you with perils. So like I said, defensive items are the priority, but it's not bad. Warhammer is an interesting one. The 2+ swords is good. The 1- explode pool really isn't that bad, but the 3 gold thing cost is like, I mean, normally I would try to get this out of my hand rather than play it, because 3 gold's a lot, but it's up to you. The Battle Axe isn't bad, because it only costs 1 gold, 1 extra die. It's not bad for 1 gold, actually. Now, Ranger's Cloak is actually very good, okay? It's really, really good, especially with characters that are not combat-orientated, right? Because it's stealth and evade in the forests, right? So what that means is that if you get attacked, right, the person and they attack you, chances are, if you're playing as a spellcaster, you got decent wits, so you're probably not going to take any damage, and you're going to move out of the way. So depending on where you move, you'll probably move out of the way, and then hopefully the character doesn't come after you again. It's a pretty decent, it's only 1 gold, but there are a lot of forests on the map, so this is actually pretty good. Towards the end of the game, I would replace the Ranger's Cloak with shield cards, but still, it's pretty good. Warhorn is an interesting one. It has the potential to be really good, but the problem with this is that you can't guarantee that you're going to get followers. Even if you pick Scarlet, right, who has the ability to, it is Scarlet, right? Where is she? Where is Scarlet? Ah, here it is, Scarlet. Even with her ability, you can't guarantee that you're gonna get a follower unless somebody else takes the Ruin Amulet. So, it seems very powerful in, oh, not this. It seems very powerful it seems like it has a lot of potential, but it's really kind of crappy. Lord Scepter is very interesting, okay? Now, in the last game that I was playing, I used this to... It's 1 plus prestige per claimed settlement, and 1 plus gold at dawn, right? That's actually pretty good. The extra gold is good, but the prestige is where it's at. This item pretty much guarantees that you're going to get a prestige lead, especially if you take it with a character that has good combat skills. Really, really good item to have. The only thing is that towards the end of the game, I would swap it out with a defensive item when you go to attack the king. But there's no harm having this in your hand. Heavy Flail is... I don't like this card. I think the Warhammer is better. Because it only applies when you attack. So, I mean, Fang might like this. To help him get closer to his ability to get the slaughter, but kind of a useless card, to be honest. His Halberd's not bad. The 1 plus die is good, but the 1 minus die is much better. But it's still not as good as the Trusty Shield. But it is better than some of the other items here. Sailor's Lantern, like I said, I would only equip this either to get it out of your hand, or... It's not bad to equip when you've got nothing else to equip, because it's only 1 gold. Oak Spear is not bad. Especially when you're playing a character that doesn't have good attack. But I wouldn't... the extra, because it's an additional sword when defending. But it's not enough to stop someone from attacking you. But it's a pretty decent. Much better for a defensive character than an offensive character, to be honest. But if you've got nothing better to equip, you might as well equip it. The longbow is basically useless. It's only 2 gold, but really... Only spellcasters might find a use for this. But normally spellcasters want shields to stay alive. So, like I said, kind of useless. Spyglass is... It's only on your perils. So it doesn't apply to... It's not like the Sailor's Lantern that gives you Scout that applies to all perils that you're near. This is only on your perils, so kind of useless. Battle Armor is good. The 1 minus die is kind of rough, but it's worth the +2 shields. If you get 2 of these, that's 4 shields. Now... So Battle Armor is good. Heavy Plate Armor is great, but you should keep this in your hand for the end game, right? Because you don't want to equip this early on. You don't want to equip this until you're on your last quest and you're next to the castle, right? Because the 1 minus action point is nasty, okay? You need that extra action point, okay? 1 minus action point per turn is nasty, but once you're towards the end game, right, you want to keep this in your hand because the 3 plus shields is really good. Marauder Gauntlet is a bit of a weird one in that it doesn't... You gain 1 rot, so if you're going down the rot path, it's pretty good, but I wouldn't really bother with it unless you're going down the rot path because... It'll help you for most of the game, but when you attack the king, the 1 plus shield isn't going to help, because you're going to give the king an extra die anyway. Bastard Sword is... I'm not a big fan of this card. The reason I'm not a big fan of it is because defensive items are better, and the 4 gold is kind of costly. I wouldn't bother with this card, to be honest. It's not worth the cost. But, like I said, if you're playing Fang, could be good. The extra sword and the extra die could be really good for Fang. But everyone else should focus on defensive items. The Torch is an interesting card because it will help you get more gold to equip more items. So, really good to equip only if you've got nothing else to equip. Leather armor is pretty good. The Perils ability is pretty good. But really its main use is just getting an extra shield. Chainmail Shirt is brilliant. It is one of the best defensive items in the regular item deck. The 1+ shield and the first rolled mist instead reflects is awesome. You should always equip this. There's no reason not to. Feathered Helm is... The 1+ prestige is nice, but really it's the 1+ shield that you're going for. So yeah, like I said, like a trusty shield with the prestige. Tower Shield is great, especially for characters that are more on the defensive side, because like if you're playing like a spellcaster, like at the Bear Clan, like Sana or something like that, because the extra shield when defending, if you've got 2 of these, that's 4 shields. Poison Dagger I'm not a big fan of. Really, its only use is for getting rot. It doesn't de-incentivize anybody from attacking you. When I've had this card, almost nobody, even if you're playing as a spellcaster, even if you've got this card, you're still going to get attacked. Really, its only use is for getting rot. It's really its only use. Nothing else it's useful for. Iron Pike is actually really good. Because the reflect is nice. But the pierce for the first attacking sword is good, because if the king gets down to 1 pierce, if the king gets down to 1 heart, this is a guaranteed king kill. So, an interesting item. Kingsguard armor is great. It's better for characters that have got at least 4 fight. Because it's almost a guaranteed at defenses, right? Also really great against the king, because those defenses that miss, those rolls that miss, instead of going to the king, they go to your pool. So this item is really awesome. Not as good as the Chainmail Shirt or the Battle Armor, but still pretty good. Much better for characters that have got at least 4 fight. Mahogany Staff is... The Explode Pool is nice, but the 1+ Spirit is great. This is a great card, especially if you've got the 3... If you start with 3 Spirit or more. Because going from 3 to 4 is really good. Because when you get to the 4 Spirit mark, you can pretty much cast most of the spells in the game. So, because of that, it's a really good card, but you sort of have to decide whether you want it in place of defensive items. So maybe 2 defensive items and this one would be really good. Reliable Short Sword is useless, but it doesn't cost anything to equip, and it's a free sword to attack, so really, just equip it if you've got nothing better to equip. Cub's Blood is really only useful if you're going for rot. If you're not going for rot, it's useless. King's Guard is... The Poison Gift is nice, especially if you are going for rot. Poison lasts for 2 turns, and it basically means that anytime a character spends an action point to move, they deal 1 damage per action point moved. So if they move 3 times, they lose 3. They take 3 damage. So this is annoying to have it played on you, but also nice if never play it on a King's Guard unless you're going for the rot. But then again, you'd only be playing this card if you're going for the rot anyway. I wouldn't bother playing it if you're not going for rot. Hot Rot Wine is a game-winning card. You should keep this in... Now, for the most part with this card, you keep it in your hand for when you're about to attack the king. Because the advantage of this card is when you move into the palace, right, it uses up 3 action points, right? So normally when you move into the palace, it ends your turn. But if you move into the palace and then you play this card, you can immediately attack the king, right? So you should keep this card in your hand for the end game. The only time that you should play it before the end game is if you're going for rot. If you're going for a rot victory, right? If you're not going for a rot victory, play it, keep it in your hand for the end game. Mountain Moss is great if you're going for rot. Because let's just say you've got 3 rot, right? And let's just say you've got 4 rot. Let's just say you've got like... It's great for when you're going for a rot victory because you play it on Banes. So let's just say you're corrupted and you've got 5 rot, right? And you want to attack a Bane that has, say, 6 rot. If you play it on the Bane, right? The Bane drops down to 4 rot, which means when you attack it, you get the rot advantage. Apart from going for a rot victory, this isn't really that useful because you can't play it on the king anyway. So really that's its only use. I have seen people play it on themselves, but I personally I don't see the point of doing that. Really it's really for making it easier to kill a Bane to become corrupted. Wild Sap is self-explanatory. It heals 4 health. You can play it on a creature, but I don't know why you'd ever play it on anybody but yourself, unless you're a teamer, in which case, don't team. Like, I do it when I'm playing with people when I'm streaming, but really, I don't know why people are doing that. Alright, Moon Juice is great, but this is great to keep in your hand, especially if you need the extra magic. But if you don't need the extra magic, you might as well just burn it. Brazenberry Ale is good. There's no reason not to play this. But if you're going for a Wits quest, I wouldn't play it. Especially if you're going for the treasure. Throwing Axe is great, but you can only use it on a creature that's 1 tile away from you. So you have to be really close to use it. And you can't play it on the king either. Wild Weed is self-explanatory. It heals you. Bubble Tea, there's no reason not to play this on you. Like, 1 prestige, you might as well get out of your hand. Snake Venom is useless. There's no reason to play this, to use this card. It's 2 gold. You might as well just use it to get... You might as well just play it just to get rid of it. Or the poison isn't going to help you. You either want to kill people or not. The poison is not going to stop people from attacking you. I have never seen poison de-incentivize someone from attacking me. Blackberry Dust is great. I mean, because the 1+ health and the 2- explode pool really isn't that big of a negative. This card only applies to Nazar, so it's not really relevant in a discussion of the cards. I discussed this card in the Nazar guide. Alright, spells. Now with the spell deck and the trickery deck, you have perils, which are cards that you play on the board, and when somebody stumbles on it, they have to play the peril and they have to roll a certain number of dice, otherwise they lose the damage. Except for if you play this card on somebody when it's not their turn. So Tanglevine is a peril. If you play it on somebody when it's not their turn, they immediately suffer 1- health or 1- action point. if you play it on a forest, plains, or swamp, and there's no character there, it becomes a peril. And the next time somebody moves onto that space, they have to roll a certain number of die. Otherwise, they suffer this penalty here, and it costs 2 magic to play. Wield's Warning is a great card. If you're a spellcaster, you want to play this on yourself, or keep it in your hand for when anybody gets close to you. Another use of this card is to play it on a King's Guard in the palace to move them out of the square, or to play it on another player to force them to move. So this card only costs 1, so literally everybody can play it. So very, very useful card. Good for defense on your turn, or making people move off a square. Cleansing Wild is great. The poison is good, but there's only 2 of these cards in the deck, so I would probably save this for if you get rot. You can also play this on other creatures, so you can play it on Banes to reduce their rot. But you can, if you're a spellcaster, right, and you're going for a rot victory, and somebody else is also going for rot as well, you can play this card on the other character going for rot to reduce their rot by 1 to make it harder for them to, get more rot than you. Wildborn is a great card. The 5+ magic is really good, and it stays indefinitely until you enter into a stone circle. So as soon as you play this card, the next time, irrespective of how many turns you've had, except for if you die, the next time you go into a stone circle, you get +5 magic. Really, really good card. Banish is an incredible card, but it's got so many uses. Now, at first glance, you would probably use this card to move somebody out of the way. So if somebody was close to you and you don't want them and they're in their way, you could banish them to move away from you, like far away from you, right? But this card can also be used as a teleport. So the way that you use it as a teleport is, like, let's just say you're on one side of the board and you have a quest on the other side of the board, right? So you look at the map and you've tried to figure out by looking at the map which dungeon is the furthest away from where you are. And if you can see that the dungeon that is furthest away from you where you are is closer to your quest, you can play it on yourself to get closer to your quest. You can also play this on people in the palace to get them out of the palace. So this card has multiple uses. It's a very, very powerful card. Think very carefully what you use this card for. Okay? It has a lot of uses. You can play it on yourself, you can play it on other creatures, so just be aware that this card is very powerful, and you should keep it in your hand as a teleport, or for the late game, to maybe get someone out of a palace if they try to kill the king, right? Mirror's Image, and now you can also play it as a peril, but I don't know why you would ever do that. There's no reason to play this card as a peril. You should always play it on a creature, right? There's no reason to ever play it as a peril. Now when I say this one here, see how it says play to forest, plains, or swamp? Now the difference between Banish and Tanglevine is you can only play this card on forest, plains, or swamps. Okay, so you can't play this on a creature if it's not on a forest, plain, or a swamp. Whereas with this one, you can play it on a creature as well as a dungeon or stone circle, right? So when it says play to the dungeon or stone circle, that means you can play it as a peril. When it says play to creature, it means you can play it directly on any creature in the game, except for the king. You can't play any cards on the king. Now, Mirror Image is a defensive card. You can play it on other creatures, but there's no reason. -2 dice to enemy is great. There's no reason not to play this on yourself if you're a defensive character. One of the things about being a spellcaster as well is you want to be... Normally with spellcasters, I have 2 strategies, right? 3, but mainly 2. Go for Rot and go for Spirit Stones. So if you're playing as a spellcaster and you're going for a Rot victory, you should be cycling through the magic deck to get to those Rot cards. So there's no reason to just keep cards in your hand. Keep cycling, keep burning through the cards. Every night you should be playing cards. There's no reason not to. Evil Eye is a great card. Now, this has mainly 2 to 3 uses here, right? So, the wits stat determines how many cards you draw at the start of a turn, right? Your maximum hand size, right? So there's a few ways that this card can be useful. It costs 3 magic, which means it's got a bit of a high cost, but it's useful for certain reasons. One, if you have a wits quest and you're going for the treasure, if you play this, it will increase your chances of winning that wits quest by 20%. The other thing is, it will increase your hand size, your maximum hand size by 2. So it will allow you to draw more cards, and if you're going for Rot, it's great because it'll allow you to get 2 more cards in your hand, right? So this is a really good card. There's no reason not to play it on yourself. Also, if you're about to breach, keep this card in your hand, because if you're going for the Palace Peril that uses Trickery, this will really help. Feral is a great card. It's 2+ fight, 1- wits. The only reason that you wouldn't play this on yourself is if you're about to breach the palace, or if you're going for a wits quest. But the 2+ fight at 2 cost at 1- wits is really good. Barkskin's another great defensive one. 2+ body is great. Cursed Lands. Now, Cursed Lands, really the only use of this card is to play it on a Palace Peril that you're not going for. This is a sort of a pro strat. You should always play Cursed Lands on Palace Perils that you're not going for. So let's just say you had really high wits but low spirit, and there's other spellcasters in the game. Play it on the Palace Peril for spirit, so you can make it harder for people to get into that, to breach the palace. Plague is a great card if you're going for Rot. It's great for a number of reasons. You get 1+ Rot for playing it. If it's a peril, so if somebody hits the peril and they fail, not only do they get 1+ Rot, which is great if you're going for a Rot victory, but they get poisoned. Poison lasts for 2 turns, which means it will seriously hamper their ability to move along the board. The other use of this card is to play it on yourself if you're on a settlement or a swamp for the extra Rot, and also if your next quest is next to your clan grounds and you're on the other side of the map, play it on yourself and then get killed, so when you spawn in your clan grounds, you'll be right next to your quest. Teleport is very simple. This card will always get you ahead in your quest. You should save this card. If you're anywhere near your quest, don't play it, but don't keep this card in your hand for too long, because this card, you should be playing this this is basically an auto quest complete, right? It only costs 3 magic, so literally almost every character can use it, so there's no reason not to play this card. Regeneration's pretty self-explanatory. So It's 2+ health for the next 2 turns. Be aware that it's for the next 2 turns. So you're not going to start healing until the following turns. Wake the Trees is a peril. 2 magic cost. 1 minus action points annoying. But the 2 minus cards from the target's hand's actually really good. But this is more of an annoyance than anything else. Blizzard is an annoying peril because it's 2 minus health and it forces them off the mountain, and mountains normally cost 2 action points to go to. So this can really set someone back, but it only requires 2 dice to complete the peril. So it's not likely to set someone back, but if they fail it, it's really annoying. Wall of Thorns is great because it completely blocks movement to a tile. So you can literally play this and somebody will have to go around to get to you. Really awesome if you're in the palace, and can make it really, really difficult for someone to get to you. Great if you're a spellcaster and you know where the enemy is, because then you can play it and as long as you can play it to make it harder for them to get you. This is great. Rite of the Wild. It's basically a guaranteed prestige because it'll auto kill a Bane. It will always auto kill a Bane. You can play it to a stone circle, but really there's no reason to. Now, a Flame is an interesting card. It has 2 uses, right? It's 2 minus health to a creature, so you can use it as an attack spell. But this is really useful because of its Suns Explode until next turn. So basically, if you play it on yourself, if you have the health to spare, what this means is that Suns also explode. So this is really powerful, especially if you're going for a rock victory and you're against the king, because now it's 2 dice that explode, even at night. So very, very powerful card. If you have the health to spare and you're about to attack the king, play it on yourself. It'll make it, your explosion, and you've got a big explode pool. Right, really, it has 2 uses. You can either use it to attack people, or you can use it to buff yourself when you're about to attack the king or somebody. Make sure you have the health to spare, though, if you're going to attack the king and you're going to use it on yourself. Call of the Worm is a great card if you're going for rot. If you play it on, if you're not going to get corrupted, you can play it on somebody else and it'll turn all their cards to rot, basically making them useless if they try to play them during a peril or during an attack. And if you play it on yourself while corrupted, all your cards you can explode with the rot symbol. Bloodthirst is great, especially if you need to heal, because 1+ health per wound inflicted is, even if you kill the enemy, it's 1+ wound inflicted, so you can heal quite a lot with this card. Glamour is a great card, especially if you've got nothing else to use the magic for, because stealing cards from other people's hands can get you some really good cards like Hot Rot Wine, the heavy plate armor, etc. Dark Influence is a really good card. It costs 4 magic to play. If you're playing as a spellcaster and you're going for rot, you should play it on yourself. There's no reason not to. It's literally almost guaranteed 2 to 3 rot. So, really, really good. You can play it as a peril, and you can play it on somebody else. If you've got a lot of rot and you're already corrupted and you're already in the rot lead, like you're well ahead of the king, you might as well play it on somebody else, another character, so that if they try to attack you, you get extra dice against them. Shimmer Shield is a great card. You can play it on yourself, but you can also play it to somebody else. It's a really good card to play on the king, to play on somebody who's about to attack the king, especially on Thane. If Thane's about to attack the king and you've got this card in your hand, you should play it on him so he doesn't get his ability. And the one magic cost is really good. Moonbite is an attack card. You can play it as a peril, but really, its really main use is for attacking. Yeah, so use this to attack people. Divination gives you Scout. The interesting ability about Scout is that it allows you to see things like what dice you have to get for a peril, and also where people's quests are. So sometimes it's useful to see where people's quests are, because then you can play a peril there and hopefully make it difficult for them to get their quest. It's also got one magic cost, so you can use it to just burn it out of your hand. Focus is like the evil eye, except it's for spirit. Very, very useful to play if you need the extra magic, either for a quest or... Now, you should only play this card unless you're playing it for a quest. Unless you're going for a spirit quest and you want the extra magic to buff your chances of getting treasure, you should always play this at the end of the day turn, before it becomes night. Right? So, I think you have to play it after your turn. So just be aware when you play this. Right? Because if you don't play this card at night, because you're wasting it. Unless you're going for a quest, because remember, magic is generated at night. So you want to have the 2+ spirit before you draw your cards, before it's your turn at night. Spirit Strike is good. It uses up all your magic though. So if you have 4 magic, it'll take 4 health off a creature. So the more magic you have, the more it uses up, but it always uses up all your magic. There's nothing you can do about that. Be aware, I think there's an interesting interaction with the Warlock card for this one, but I haven't actually tested it out. So, I'm not sure if playing this with the Warlock kills you, but I haven't tested it out, so it very well could, but I'm not sure. I don't normally play the Warlock card, so don't know. Immolation is an attack card. The closer you are, the more damage it does. -3 health is actually really good. Malice Rising is great for if you're going for Rot, because you get 1+ Rot for playing it, and if there's a Bane and you're corrupted, you get 1+ Rot for killing the Bane. So really its only use is for if you're going for a Rot victory. You can also play it if you're in the palace, and you can use it as you can play it if you're in the palace and you've got more Rot than the king. You might as well play this card to use it to put a Bane in front of where you are, so that if somebody wants to get to you, they have to go through the Bane. That's one way of using it as well. Haste costs 3 magic, and by the way, Malice Rising gives you 1 Rot when you play it. So Haste gives you 1+ action point for the next 2 turns. Be aware that when you play it, if you play it on your turn, it starts the next 2 turns, not during the same turn. So you don't get the 1- action point on the turn that you play it. So you can't use this card like Hot Rot 1. You can't go into the palace and then play this to get an immediate action point. It's for the next 2 turns. So if you are going to play this card, make sure you're not about to die, because there's no point in playing this when you're about to die. You might as well play it after you die, so that you get the action point the following turn. Be aware with all these spell abilities, the ones that you play on yourself, right, they give you like these next 2 turn things, or if you die, you lose the ability. So just be aware that if you're going to die, and you have a card like Haste, don't play it. Play it after you're dead. Now, Lightning Strike costs 5, which is beyond the ability for most characters to play. Now, this is, if you play it during a character on their turn, it's just the -3 health. But if you play it as a peril, it ends their turn if they fail, and it uses up, and it requires 3 dice. This is actually really good to play as a peril, because if you're in the palace and you play it like to a space next to you, if somebody tries to go after you and they fail the peril, they can't get to you. So it's very, very powerful to play it as a peril, but it's also useful as an attack spell, but it uses up 5 magic, so it costs a lot of magic to cast. Crystallize is good if you've got the magic to cast it. 6 magic is very, very high in cost, so not many characters are going to be able to cast this one. Rotten Fog is not bad. 2 magic's decent, but it's not a peril. It only lasts until next dawn, so it's not really one of my favorite cards, but if you've got the magic to play it, you might as well if you've got nothing better to play. Siphon is a great card, but it costs a lot of magic to play, so 6 magic is not something that characters that start with 3 magic or less are going to be able to cast for the most part. The 1+ health for every Bane is good, but it's the 2+ rot, which is why you play it. Growth is interesting. You should really only play this if you're on a swamp, because if you go on a swamp and you play this, it's 5- health, but it costs 5 magic to cast, so I wouldn't really use this card unless you've got the magic to spare. It's much better to keep it in your hand and use it as a wild symbol. Leech is good to get the extra rot. If you're already infected with rot, you should probably play this during the day, so you get the 1 health back from the dawn loss from the rot. And you get 1 rot for playing it. So great if you're going for a rot victory. These are the packs that Yordana has. So they were discussed in the Yordana guide. If anybody wants me to discuss these in detail, I can do it in another Yordana video. So now we're at the trickery cards. Now, trickery cards cost a lot of gold, and they often have a one-time effect. Some of them are perils, some of them are buffs, some of them actually have more permanent effects. But the thing is, I wouldn't go through the trickery deck until you've got good defensive items and you've got gold to spare. So we start with Strategist. Strategist is really powerful. You can use this card as a hot rot wine. In the same way, you can go into the palace and then use this to move immediately. But really, that's its only use, because paying 3 gold for 1 additional action point is not really useful unless you're going to use it in the palace. It's too much gold for what you're getting. Now, Patronage in Industry is very powerful. Because the settlement produces 1+ gold and 1+ prestige each dawn for the person who has it. So this is actually really powerful, especially if it's on a settlement that's near your clan grounds. But be aware, if somebody else takes that off you, they're going to be getting the gold and the prestige. So Elysia would really like this card, but everybody else is you probably should be a little bit careful about playing it, because you might end up buffing your enemy. but I would probably play this if it's at a settlement near your clan grounds that's out of the way for everybody else. Allies, now pact cards are interesting. Allies pact cost 2. Now pact cards, the way they work is you play them on another hero, and both you and the hero get the buff here, right? So if you play this on another hero, both you and the hero and the other hero get 1 prestige per turn. Be careful who you play this on, because you're giving them 1+ prestige per turn. So you probably want to play this on the weakest character or a spellcaster. Same with Merchant's Agreement. 1+ gold per turn is very powerful, but it's also going to buff somebody else, so be aware who you play this card on. Hidden Trap is a peril that you can also play on people. It's actually really annoying to have this played on you, because 1- action point slows you down. So good card, but I wouldn't play this at the very beginning. If you start with this in your hand, just get rid of it, by either attacking, or if you've got the gold to spare, play it. This is good. It only costs 1 to play, but if somebody's got a lot of settlements, right, they can lose a lot of gold. You can also play it as a peril, but I find that this is much better to keep in your hand to play it as a defense card. You can do the same with these ones, but they're much better off played on a character. Slanderous Toad costs 1 prestige to play. You're probably better off playing this on the prestige leader, because it'll take 2 prestige from them. Not much to say about this card. It costs 1 prestige to play. If you're going for prestige, I wouldn't recommend going for a prestige victory, but sometimes, like if you get the Royal Scepter, it can be very powerful. Wandering Circus is good. It's very good, because it steals them from their hand. So it's like a glamour, but it can only be played on a plains, forest, or settlement. You should really try to play this on other characters, but it's good as a peril as well. So if you've got a settlement near you, and now one of the things that I didn't say about the difference between trickery perils and spirit perils is that trickery perils have an unlimited range. Spirit perils have the range of tiles is equal to your the range is equal to your magic. So welcome back. Alright, where were we? Oh wait, not the clan grounds, the collectibles card gallery. So we were up to Wandering Circus. Okay, so like I was saying before, Wandering Circus is a great card to play on somebody else if you can. It's actually really worth its value of 2 gold, because it can potentially steal you 2 cards from somebody else. Good to play on a settlement of yours, but there are other perils that are better to play, but sometimes this is all you got. Incite Revolt is really only useful for playing on settlements that are claimed by other people. Scarlet loves this card though, because you can play it on a settlement and then take the settlement and you get a follower. Expendables is great to keep in your hand to play on Palace Perils. So at 1- gold, but you probably want to be careful about what you play this on. You don't want to make it easier for your enemies to get into the palace. Let me just do something a little bit quickly. Let's just drop this a little bit. Yeah, cool. I think that's better. Alright. Okay, we're back here. Plague Bearers is okay. I mean, it costs 1 prestige to play. I mean, if you don't care about prestige, it's basically a free card. So, Game of Thorns is actually pretty good because it can potentially get you another 3 prestige. So, because of that, getting 3 prestige in a single turn is a big thing. So it can potentially help you with a prestige victory, but it is expensive. Witch Hunters is probably my least favorite of the trickery cards to get, because I mean, really the 4- magic is only annoying for spellcasters, and really it's not necessarily the most annoying. It's not like losing gold. You get magic the next turn or the following turn, so not really that big a deal. Cat Burglar is actually really good, especially if the enemy, especially if the hero characters have got a really good loadout. Can potentially get you a treasure, so really good card. Agent of Misfortune is great to play on one of your perils, because it means for everyone they fail, they take more damage. So you can actually play it on top of a peril. Emissary is pretty good because you can use it to claim any target settlement anywhere on the map. Welcome in Party is absolutely awesome. It only requires 3 wits, 2 dice, but if you fail it, your turn ends immediately. So it's a pretty powerful peril, and at 2 cost, it's actually pretty good. Pickpockets is great, but if you have a certain ring, like for instance, there's a Rat Clan ring. Where is it? For instance, if you have Black Opal, Black Opal, where is it? This one, Obsidian, and you play that card, it actually steals one of their equipment, and even if you have Scout on them. So it's actually, I mean, the 2 gold back is not bad, but it has potential to be really powerful, because stealing 1 equipped item is really good. Mercenaries is really annoying to have it played against you, so that's really good. 3 gold is good for that. Rangers gives you Scout from a tile. So be aware, this isn't played on a character, this is played on a tile. So it gives you Scout from one range of that tile. Saboteur is great to play on somebody when they're about to attack the king, because getting rid of that explode pool is really awesome. Disguise is, if you've got the gold to go for it, it's good, but it's kind of expensive for what it does. So, not my favorite, but it does have situational uses. Reprieve can be really good, actually. Can be really good. You can even play this on Silas to get rid of his bounty. So, good card to play on Silas if you're not playing Silas. Good card to play on yourself if you've got the gold for it. Now, Spy Network is good. Now, this works hand in hand with pickpockets. So, if you've played Spy Network on a character and then you play pickpockets on them, you basically get to steal an item on top of the gold. So, really, really good. False Orders is situational, but it only costs 1 gold. Plus, you can use it as a defense card, so if you don't use it, you can just burn it as a defense card. Merry Thieves is great because you steal 3 gold. So you actually get 2 gold, and you give 1. So you actually get 2 gold, and you give 1 gold to the poorest. So you're basically still making a profit of 1 gold on it. So it's actually a really good card. This is great. Just make sure that people have got gold when you use it. Beheaded is situational. You're better off playing it to a hero that has lots of followers, because when you play it to them, you're gonna, if you kill them, you get 1 prestige, so it offsets the cost of using it. Bribery is great, because followers are really hard to get, and if somebody else has a follower, you should definitely steal it. Literally all the followers in this game are good. There are very few that are useless. Crooks is pretty good. I mean, -2 gold, but if they can't pay 1 minus... I mean, kind of better to play it on a tile, I guess, but not the best peril, but still okay. Hoodwinked is a very, very annoying one to have played against you. Okay? But it does have a unique power. If you have items equipped that give you rot when you equip them, you can play this card on yourself if you're in a dungeon or a settlement, and use it to unequip those items, so you can play the rot items on yourself again and get more rot for playing them. So basically it allows you to double the rot gain from rot equipment items. Silas, so this is good to play on somebody else before you kill them, or Silas loves playing this on himself. This is actually really good. The reason it's really good is because if you put it on one of your settlements, right, Banes can't go there, which means Banes cannot terrorize your settlement. Very, very powerful to play in combination with Palisade Walls, and to play in combination with Patronage and Industry. So those buff settlements. The next one was Armistice. This is really, really good to play on somebody who you don't want to get attacked by, or it's really good to play on anybody if you're Silas and then attack them so you can become a traitor straight away. Palisade Walls is a buff to one of your settlements. So basically what Fortified means is that it costs 2 AP to move in there. Doesn't stop Banes from moving in there, but it may make someone think twice about going into your settlement, another hero. Arson is really only useful for playing if there's another hero in a forest and you want to do damage to them. Sharpshooter is great. When they only have no bounties, it's not necessarily worth it. But you can't. This is one of the few trickery cards that you can play on somebody in a palace. So really, really good. And it does more damage so if they have bounties. Blood Money is great. This is really, really good on a character that can deal damage. Like this can get you a lot of gold in a single turn if you play it. And it only costs 1 prestige, so it's well worth playing it. Blackmail is awesome to play on a hero, because you basically get 1 gold from them every turn. You want to play this on the most dominant character. so you can be stealing gold from them every turn. Grand Heist is great, especially if you play it on a Spirit Walker. Really, really good card, but it costs a lot of gold, so really it's only useful if you have the gold. Roxy's recruiting is brilliant. You play it on a settlement, and the next turn, if you go there, you get the choice of one of two followers. Really powerful. Same with Big Black Market. Treasures are very, very powerful in this game, as we will see later on. So, really, really good. This one's okay. And this one's also okay. This one's a little bit better than this one because this could potentially get you some good defensive items. And Devious Ruse you play on yourself. Really, really good if you play this before attacking the kin. Especially if you're rolling lots of dice. Unlimited Explode Pool is really awesome. So now we move to the followers. Now, these are pretty much all good. Most of these you can recruit via... So followers are recruited via quests, and you can sometimes get them in the dungeon. Same with treasures. Brilliant Fool is great for everyone, because 2+ dice to perils means that it makes it easier for you to breach, but also it means that you're going to be much better at doing any perils. Warlock is really only useful if you want to go for a rot. If you're not planning to go for rot, I wouldn't go for Warlock. This is one follower that you can do without. Explorer is great, but I've been advised that this card is useless for Amber. It doesn't actually give any benefit when you're using Amber. Berserker is great. The only disadvantage of it is that it stops you from playing shield cards, because when you play them, they change to sword symbols. The Apothecary can only be recruited via a special event, I believe. But really, really useful if you get it. Alchemist is good. Stat buff is always good. Bard is actually good situationally. It's good for characters that have got either high wits or high peril or both, because being able to get prestige for completing perils is actually really good. The Conjurer is a great card, is a great follower, especially if you're going for rot, because it means you can play a peril and get another card in your hand. The Stranger is annoying, and you get him via the dungeon. Apprentice is great, everybody loves this card. Blacksmith is good too. So the way it works is if for the first sword or shield card, you get a... So if you have one shield card and one sword card equipped, you would get one shield and one sword. But you only get one shield or one sword max. Squire is okay. Silas really likes it. And it can really help if you're about to attack the king. Because it means that if you attack the king and you get killed, but you kill the king, you actually win the game, whereas otherwise you would have lost it. Miner is crap, but it's a treasure, it's a follower, so... well, of the followers, it's probably the least useful. One of the least. Spy Master is situationally good. It's very, very good for characters that have enough gold or magic to play perils, because then what you can do is you can put them on where characters are going to go to complete their quest to be an annoyance. Coin Master is situationally good. You don't want to be not moving in a turn, but sometimes you might want the extra gold to recruit one of your equipment items. So it's better than nothing, but not the best. Trader is always good. Poison Taster is really situationally good. I mean, poison is debilitating, and it can really set you back, but it's a follower, so you get it for free. So I wouldn't pick this, though, if you have the choice of two of them due to Roxy's recruiting. Diplomat's good, counts as a claimed settlement. Good for getting that settlement bonus to trickery perils. And here we come to treasures. Royal Banner is kind of useless. Ooh, what's this? Oh, that's right. Royal Shield is great for characters that either have high fight or high rot. It's really good. It's very, very powerful with those characters. It's like the King's Guard on steroid. The King's Guard's armor on steroids. Really good. Helm of Heroes is always great. You should almost always equip this. The 1+ wits is just awesome. Royal Pardon is situationally good. But honestly, I'd prefer to equip items that gives you shields. This is a treasure that you get from a special event. Kind of useless though. This is kind of good for just equipping to get the rot. You also get this from a special event. Really, really good if you're going for rot victory, because if you kill other characters, they get 1+ rot, but kind of bad if you don't want to give other characters rot. You don't get a choice. Masquerade Mask is always good. Bane's Claw is crap. There's no reason to equip this unless you've got a spot for it. The Bane Blade is really good, but I wouldn't... The Bane Blade is really good, but I wouldn't equip it unless you're going for rot. And you're playing as a spellcaster, or you've got some way of getting rid of the rot. So, a good example is if you're playing as the Dragon Clan and you have this ring on quest completion 1- rot, and you're not going for a rot victory, take the Bane Blade. Especially if you get it early, because you're gonna lose 5 rot when you do. You're gonna lose 1 rot each time you do a quest. But the Bane Blade is very powerful. But it's really, really good in the hand. It kind of incentivizes you to go for rot. So that's kind of the problem. But it's a very, very powerful treasure. Very, very powerful. Winged Boots is good if you get it early. If you get it early, this will seriously help you complete your quest, because you can just go ignore mountains. You can ignore mountain and swamp penalties, which is going to really speed up your process. But I would, towards the end of the game, once you've completed your quests, I would equip something else. Wildfire Staff is always good, because of the fact that it gives you 1+ spirit, and 2+ magic at Everic Dawn. So it effectively gives you 3+ magic. This card can turn a character that's not a spellcaster into a spellcaster. Wild Talisman is interesting, because while you have it, your rot is considered 0. So this can be very, very useful for characters that want to go for rot, but don't want to take dawn damage. So what you do is, if you're playing as a spellcaster, you cycle through the spell deck. You just keep playing those rot cards, and then once you've got enough rot to be corrupted, you unequip it. But just be aware that while you've got this card on, you won't actually be able to see how much rot you have. So you'll have to keep count yourself of how much rot you have. Mirror Cape is useless. You're better off equipping an item, and it doesn't work against the king. Poppet is good. It's good. It's very, very powerful. Even if you're not going for rot, it might be worth equipping, because if you attack the king and you survive, and the king has less than 2 health, you'll kill the king and win anyway. So this card is very, very powerful. Probably better off equipping on a combat character rather than a spellcaster. Because You know, it's because of the 2 minus health from your battle, and 1 minus rot for this ability is not that damaging. The Lionheart Breastplate is great. It's really, really powerful with twists and any Rat Clan character that has the turquoise ring that gives you a evade. Because it basically means they can evade and they don't retreat. The twists want any character with evade, with permanent evade, wants this card. Hand cannons is, well, kind of useless. I would prefer to equip cards that give you defense or an ability like this. Reaper's Trident is really only good for gaining rot. I mean, it does give you an extra 3 swords, but really its only purpose is to get the rot. So get the rot and then equip a better, and then equip something else. Hero Shield is awesome. 1+ shield with it's really, really good. It's like a better version of the Bastard Sword. Really, really good. The Silver Lance is... I'm not a big fan of this, but if the king's on 1 health, it almost guarantees you a victory. So, that being said, I'd say the Iron Pike is better than this. And the Iron Pike is a regular card. And that's it. Alright, this was my guide to the cards of Armello. If you have any questions or anything you'd like me to elaborate on, please post it in the comments. And I might plug my charity of the week was Amnesty International. So the link to them will be in the donate link will be in the description. So just be aware that I don't get any sponsorship from them. So if you do donate to them, they get the full amount. So I'll be doing like one charity of the week, because I thought, like, why not? Alright, this was G-Man Gaming and Reviews. Please follow me on YouTube. Feel free to watch my streams when I do them every Friday. And yeah, please like and subscribe. And thanks for watching. Alright, bye.